You streaming timing. Let's see if it's working. Okay, looks like it's working. Cool. I still can't see because South of Midnight. Oh, looks like a really generic fantasy game that. Oh wow, that frame rate is terrible. Hello everyone, welcome back to stream. I am here once again. It is me, Crispy, and I am joined by Andy today.
Hello. I'll
And
try to
we are
be
here to
nice and
do.
not scream so much.
Yeah. Oh, give me 1 second. Okay. Yep. Looks like we're good to go here. So. Oh. All right. I
Ooh, they're showing a commercial for South of Midnight.
I don't know that.
It's like it deals with like Southern horror and like lore and stuff.
Oh.
I think it has the typical like man, like he's immortal because he made a deal with the devil to play real good.
Ah, yes, the Dorian Gray. Well, actually, that's more of like a picture frame.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Oh, I didn't even get to mention what we're doing today for stream. So,
What?
I'm not sure how many people are aware of the man, the myth, the legend, Dick Smasher. But I figured I'd give a police sketch. I mean, visual representation of him. And I think I found some pretty. Oh man, there's some
Hello?
pretty good reference pictures here that I'm going to have to pick one from. Oh yeah, oh yeah, I found a good one. Yeah, look at that. That's perfect. Alright. So this is going to be a pretty laid back stream. Not sure how far I'll get with this, but hey, that's half the fun. We'll see where we get. Just been a bit of a tiring day, I guess you could say. Also, if people need me to adjust the volume or anything, just let me know. I'll do that.
So when you said Richard Smasher, I thought you meant like Adam Smasher, but his name is Richard, and like might have
No,
something bad.
it's actually from the latest BPL intermission podcast.
Oh,
If people haven't listened to that, I definitely suggest giving it a listen. It's fun. But as soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, that needs to be something I have to draw on stream. So
I I really haven't been up on my podcast game lately.
yeah, that's fair. I tend to listen
I
to podcasts a lot at work. So yeah, BPL was definitely a big listen to me for a while, but I've also listened to like true crime stuff a lot for better or worse, given the cursed knowledge it gives me. But
oh yeah.
plus
I think
sometimes there's aliens.
I think I need to see what Astonishing Legends is up to.
That's one I used to listen to. That was a pretty good one. I don't know. It
I
just
just did that here.
their episodes certainly go in a lot of depth. They're just kind of long for me. I think the one that I really enjoyed listening to was them talking to. There's this very famous alien autopsy video that was made. I think it
Yeah,
was
from
like,
the '90s.
yeah, they talked to the guy that
I
made that,
remember
and the thing about that video is it was never meant to be taken seriously. It was supposed to
that. It
be
was
like
on Fox.
made. What?
It was on Fox. It was like I think it was
Yeah.
the
Well,
equivalent of like the War of the Worlds radio play.
yeah. Well, that's the thing is like the guy that originally made that video. I think he made it as like a bet or just like something to see if he could make like a convincing alien autopsy video. And he actually described
Yeah,
a lot of how he went into it, and it was really interesting because they actually made sure stuff was like period accurate in terms of like the background props. Like they had like a proper looking setup and everything, and I think they shot in the dude's apartment or something, and it was like really interesting to hear how they did the special effects and everything. The problem is that the guy that he did the bet with essentially like took it and turned it into like what they put on Fox as like, is this real, like true crime thing, without the whole like acknowledging it later
I
on that it
remember
was actually,
happy about it.
yeah, which is I totally get that, you know, and it's
I
just
remember the scene like where he was like peeling the like black layer off of the eyeball on the alien. Like,
oh yeah, no, that was a that was actually a fun little feature he talked about where, you know, when he was like planning out how they were going to design this alien, you know, there's the classic representation of the gray, and his thing about it was like, well, you know, they would probably need some sort of eye covering for UV rays in space, so that's where he came up with that idea. It's just interesting to see how much thought goes into like effects. I don't want to say just practical, or I guess special effects are just. I mean, there's probably thought that goes into CGI stuff as well, but you know that can also, which I guess is also true of like practical effects. They can be either really good or really bad.
I mean, I like my giant monsters to be guys in rubber suits, but to be honest, lately the CGI kaiju have been pretty all right.
I think honestly the best thing is like a mix of the two. You know what I mean? Like using like you do the practical effects and you use the CGI to enhance it or touch it up. Like you know, that's
I tell
one
you
of the.
what,
No, go ahead.
when Jurassic the graphics for that, I don't think you kids understand just how big of a deal that was back then.
Oh no, it was huge, and you know honestly, looking at those old movies, they still hold up relatively well. You know,
I mean, the weird thing is like normally early CG, like you could see like almost like a plastic film over 3D monsters or things. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's that sort of like early CGI look, you know, where it was very much plasticky.
Yeah. Jurassic Park, from what I remember, I could be wrong. It could be like, just nostalgia and all that, but I don't remember seeing too much of that. I mean, it did have it, but
Oh yeah, I
it was
like I
still
said,
real enough.
I think it was, you know, they made sure like for the close up stuff to really have practical effects for it. I think was the big thing when it comes to that. Um, at least that's my opinion. I don't know specifically, you know, the making of how they did the special effects. I mean, I can tell you what bad CGI from that era looks like, and actually, it actually comes later. But I'm sure if anyone's seen The Mummy Returns, they remember the Scorpion King, and if you haven't, Google that right now, and you'll see what I mean.
I mean, to be honest, the first Toy Story movie, in my opinion, was kind of bad CGI.
You gotta
but
Yeah,
it had a
but that was
warmth
also like,
to it. It got better.
yeah. Well, I mean that's also as well. It's like, yeah, wasn't the best looking CGI, but also, you know, that was very much like one of the first movies that animated movies that was CGI.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, we've got a lot of ones now that are kind of bland and annoying, also by Disney. But that's my opinion, and that's a whole other conversation. Um,
I mean, the thing with like CGI is like you got the like basically the model and you can just pose it around, whereas with animation, you got to draw
oh yeah,
it
no,
over and over.
I totally
over
get
and over.
the appeal of CGI. I'm not saying CGI is bad.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and like honestly, I think Incredibles 2 was very fantastically animated. I thought that was a great movie. But
I haven't seen it yet.
I definitely recommend it. It was great. I enjoyed it.
We're Zork. We're kind of talking about like CGI from back
Yeah,
in the day and kind of now. We kind of like
yeah,
hit off of like Jurassic Park. The
yeah,
conversation is probably constantly evolving.
yeah. As for what we're drawing, I am drawing Richard Smasher or Dick Smasher from the latest BPL podcast. I don't know how many people have listened to that, but if you haven't, I recommend going and listening to it. It's the intermission part 3 one, and I heard the description for that, and I'm like, well, now I have to draw that because it just sounds too funny. My
I always
only
love
concern is,
coming up with this.
can I fit
I
an
always
entire
love.
Firebird in the back?
I love our creative like. We just make things and people and characters and draw it and all that. Like I think it was funny. Chud Lunchkin we did a while ago.
Oh, Chud Lunchkin was great. I mean, that's like one of the big things I love about this community is just how not only how many creative people we have, but how much we inspire each other and egg each other on. You know.
I was talking to Techie the other day, and I asked him, "Who is Idorf Chud Muffin?"
That's my new favorite character name.
Yeah, and he was like, it was either like basically it came down to something equivalent to like the Dread Pirate Roberts, but
That makes sense.
he like specializes in making muffins, I guess. I think I'll just imagine like a dwarf barbarian that also knows how to bake really good muffins.
That's just Keebler Ales.
Elves and dwarves, I mean, if you want to go in the whole literary sense, they're kind of the same, but to me, I mean, you have the Tolkien elves, the Keebler elves. Oh god, I'm gonna go into that stuff again. It's where it's like basically all the little fey creatures, gnomes, goblins, elves, and such like that. They're kind of like the same thing, just different names.
Oh man, you know it's funny you mention that because there's a UFO connection there as well. Some people believe that the ideas of people meeting like the gnomes and the Hildefolk and things are just like they're related to like alien encounters. Not necessarily saying that it's aliens, but it's just like there's a lot of similarities in terms of how those encounters go. And it's just interesting to see the sort of connections. But
what was that siege where they had the little green men and they were bulletproof?
Oh fuck!
And they're like all night shooting them, and like
yeah, I know exactly what you're
like,
talking about. I just don't remember what it was. It was like in the woods.
Yeah, the sheriff shows up and like the two brothers are telling him what happened. He's like, "Ah, you're full of shit and drunk again." And then the mother comes out and tells him, and he's like, "Well, if the mother, you know, like she's actual respectable. She says it happened. It has to have happened."
Yeah. Oh god. Okay, so one of the things about this is he's leaning on an 87 Firebird, and I just googled what that looks like, and man, that is not a good looking Firebird. I think 80s cars look ugly personally. For the most part, there's definitely some good-looking ones like the McLaren F1, but I'm also not a huge car guy, so take that with a grain of salt.
Everybody has their own different. Like I used to like the 1967 Chevy.
The 60s one, I'd have to see it, but I could imagine it.
Okay, that's the one I thought of. The one I'm talking about had like the fins and the little rocket thruster lights coming out of it, so I think I've got the wrong one.
I kind of agree with that CGI enhances things, but too much. It really depends on what you're animating. Like, if we're talking practical effects, I definitely agree with you there. If we're talking animation, I'd say that's also just a matter of, like, the styling and everything. Because, you know, like I was saying, Incredibles 2, and I guess also Incredibles 1, fantastically animated movies, but the sort of style that Disney has settled into as of late, which I'm not going to turn this into a shit on Disney podcast, or not podcast, a shit on Disney stream, because, I mean, that's just beating a dead horse. But
Not again.
no, I just want to say that I think their way that they animate stuff these days are just looks so uninspired and generic, which is a shame, because Disney's older animations are great. Yeah, 70 styles cars are good. I do love the 76 Camaro. That's one of my favorite looking ones. I think 70s really hits the spot for me in terms of cars.
Yeah.
Or like late 60s or mid to mid 70s, I want to say, before they started getting real square.
Yeah, there was a period where they just made cars with sharp angles. It's like if you run your finger over it, you get cut.
Yeah, that was very much like an 80s thing, I want to say. I mean, I'm looking at an 87 Firebird, and it is very square. Oh, God. How am I going to...
My mother has a Nissan, not a Nissan, a Scion. The thing's like a cardboard box with a little nose, you know, a silver silver box with like the engine bay.
Ah, shit. I fucked up my... No.
I've
I
never
fucked up my
really been
toolbar.
a
God
big.
damn it.
I've never been a big car person. That was like my dad and my brother. Like, you know, they like machine mechanics and stuff like that, and I just didn't care.
Yeah. Sorry, give me a second. I'm trying to fix my, my layout here.
I wish I had paid attention though and know how to like change
Yeah.
oil and shit.
Uh, yeah, I can at least change a tire. I'm not huge into cars and
I'm,
such.
I'm sure I could change a tire. I think I can.
Ah, shit.
Maybe.
Hold on.
I mean, I'm scared. I'm still scared to put the jumper cables on the battery because I know what happens if you get that wrong.
Well, you don't... You put them on one at a time. You know, you don't just do them both at a time.
My cat has been very needy lately.
Oh, yeah?
I wonder if she's like,
Huh.
you
Very
know,
cool.
I don't want to say the word, but you know, she's like, she wants affection.
Oh, she's in heat.
God damn it! And look what you made me do.
I didn't make you do anything. I just said the word, and you just revealed what it was by swearing at me.
Sorry.
It's called entrapment. I don't think we're gonna get yelled at by Twitch for just saying the words in heat. If we go into like graphic detail, probably, but I really don't want to get into that. I'm not a animal breeder.
I'm not
Yeah,
the animal husband.
What's chat been saying? Necro Looping the Horse. That sounds like a metal band name. I'm not going to violate TOS, Grimos. Trust me. I'm just saying that I think we can say the words in heat on Twitch without getting, you know.
I wasn't worried about TOS. I just don't like the word.
It is. Well, it's, you know, it's like I know a lot of people don't like the word moist.
I hate the word puberty. I think it's disgusting.
It is a very interesting word. It's funny how the English language, or I guess that's any language, not just the English language. It's just like how certain words in a language just have like a vibe about them, you know? Oh, shit. You know what? I need to rethink about how I'm drawing this car. One sec. Let me see if I can find a good reference.
So there was that
here.
movie that Iden was mentioning. It was the one that was supposed to be like the inspiration for Aliens. I think it was It, the horror from outer space.
Oh yeah, what the fuck was that movie called? It wasn't It. It was I think it came from outer space. Was it? I want to say
something like that.
Yeah.
I really need to watch that because I was mentioning like if I could put up an old school movie to watch, it would be Forbidden Planet because I think most.
I'd love to watch Forbidden Planet again. That's such a good movie.
And I definitely would say like watch the old original War of the Worlds movie.
Like the 50s one, or like you talking about the 20s?
The 50s. That one actually scared me as a kid, you know, and horrified me.
Yeah. Alright. Trying to find a good Firebird picture here at the angle I want, but I am not. Yep, you know what? This might work.
They keep modernizing that story, but I think that the story takes place like during the Napoleonic Wars. I think basically, I know the Thunderchild battleship.
I think it's like 1800s is the idea for like the original story of War of the Worlds.
Yeah, because they had like cannons at best.
Yeah.
And they were like, we can't breach these invisible fields that they have surrounding them.
Hmm. I think that's too big, or this doesn't necessarily matter. It's just a doodle, but you know me. I like to be a
Not
perfectionist about. What the fuck is happening? Oh.
I mean, if it's supposed to be leaning against it, but I don't know. I'm not gonna...
That's what I'm going for. Yeah, it's just
Yeah, you might
this is
have
one
to
of those
lean
things.
down.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like I really like to plan out when I'm working on like portfolio type pieces what I'm doing. So I definitely get more conscious of stuff. Probably too much for my own good, but such as being an artist.
As long as you're having fun, dude.
I don't know if I'd call it fun all the time. Part of it's more just like me wanting to just continue for the sake of completioning. But it depends on the piece of game.
Yeah.
It's not every piece I struggle with. Sometimes it's just more of like I want to get something to look really nice. It's like a lot of BattleTech stuff I've done. It's definitely something I've really had to just kind of plan out for some of it. If it's not just a mech just standing there, because like the one action scene I've done before of the Centurion fighting the Commando. Actually, fuck it, I'll just pull that up too, because why not? This is the distraction stream now, because Crispy likes to rant about art things. Yeah, but like this piece, for example, that took a lot of sketching and planning out. Not even just necessarily for the pose; it was also just kind of figuring out the perspective and things. And even then, I can still see things where I could have done perspective better. But I'm still pretty well satisfied with how this one turned out, because this is like really one of the first times I've kind of drawn, battle mechs fighting each other. So there's a lot of action in the scene. What's triskaidekaphobia?
Fear of Triscuits?
I mean, I like Triscuits. Depends on the flavor, but I like Triscuits.
Then you're not afraid of them.
Thank God. Now, if there's a snack food I'm afraid of, it's like, I don't know, I'd have to think about that one.
It would be one of the ones where when you chew on it, there's a risk of, like, cutting the roof of your mouth.
Kinda. That probably plays a part. You know what I just did think of when it comes to that sort of thing, where it's like you're chewing on something and all of a sudden you get a crunch, and it's not supposed to be crunchy. That's the true horror right there.
Wait a minute, this is a gummy bear.
It's full of bones. It's funny, the way that I have this superimposed over top of like a person doing a pose, for some reason it was reminding me of one of those like Japanese dating games.
You know what? I just thought of something. So you know how like we're just overboard on like mixing foods together and stuff like that lately?
Are we? I guess we kind of are.
Like what is it, the donut burger?
Okay, I can definitely agree with you there. That's a bit much.
Oh, I have an idea. Gummy bears, but they're like they have nerds inside them.
I know there's the Gummy Bear Nerds rope, so that's not too far of a stretch. But inside of them, that's an interesting idea.
Like
also,
when they pour.
Real quick, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's a fantastic movie.
Oh yeah,
I love that movie. Zork.
So when they pour the mold that they make the gummy bear, they sprinkle in like 4 or 5 nerds, so that they're floating in like inside of the translucent gummy bear.
Yeah, no, I dig that idea. I'm just like thinking like, how do you make something like that? Because I'd imagine you'd have to pour like the gummies into a mold, and then you kind of just sprinkle in the.
Well, no, you have like you have your gummy bear molds that you pour the gelatin in that would harden, I guess. But before you do that, you put like that, or you have some gelatin that has the nerds in it, and you pour it in there, or you drop the nerds into the mold like like the mold, and then you pour the gelatin in there, and maybe mix it up a bit so that so they're not all sitting on one side.
Yeah. Oh man. So I had an idea of like, oh, what do I want the face of Richard Smasher to look like? And I had a thought. And if anyone in chat knows what this picture is, I will give you a high five. God damn, look at those sunglasses.
I mean, nerds don't really have a uniform size. They some of them are big and some of them are little. So that's why I say like 3 or 4. What do you think, like 6 or 7?
You know, I think I could see you making a bigger gummy bear for something like that. You know.
Oh god, you know those giant like 20-pound gummy bears?
Yeah, that's like a sin against God. Those are vile. Just because it's like so much gummy. I've seen people try to eat those and it does not look fun. Yeah, it's usually cuts to them throwing up in a toilet.
I used to eat gummy bears and gummy worms, and then they just started making my stomach hurt, so I had to stop eating them.
I mean, I can't really like say anything there because I'm the kind of kid that used to eat gum or like swallow gum, thinking it was like candy, and I found out the hard way why you don't want to do that.
Now you got a big old giant gum ball in your tum-tum.
Oh no, I was vomiting up strips of gum. I remember that quite clearly. It was not a good day. Don't swallow gum, kids. Also, yes, I have Jacob.
Paper on the bedpost overnight.
I have Jacob Cameron as well because, you know, look at that gorgeous mullet.
Sugar-free gummy bears. I'd try it.
I don't want to shit my brains out, man. I've done that enough today. Not to get too into my personal life.
Well, I guess you didn't have to do much shitting then, did you? Play laugh track. End laugh track.
Ah, yes, you're making fun of my brain size. Joke's to you. Your joke deflected off because it isn't completely smooth.
And you glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you.
That was the dumbest thing back in the day, like as a kid. Or like the whole like sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I'm like, first of all, words do hurt you. Especially if you get called like a slur. And secondly, why is that better than getting your limbs broken by sticks and stones?
Well, I think that the idea was like sticks and stones can do actual physical harm to you, but words can't. And I think that was the idea to teach kids, like, you know, words, you know, they're just words. You need to be better than that, and not serious.
Words can't hurt you, but people's reaction to words can definitely hurt you. I mean, look at the guy that got punched in the face by Neil Armstrong for talking shit, getting hit.
Yeah. Still, you know, we shouldn't hit people.
No, you're right. We should not advocate violence.
We've got to be the bigger and better men.
No, you don't physically hit someone. You say something so like emotionally devastating it makes them rethink their life. And I'm not saying like with swear words. I'm saying like a very specific insult where it's just like ninja paralyzer move.
The best insult, basically the best counter insult, is like when they offend you, when they say something offensive, and you just kind of look at them and then just ignore them. Like, and then everybody just looks at you, wow, that guy sucks.
There's some people I know who can be on my nerves, and it's not necessarily that I want to. It's more of like, I don't want to say this thing because I'm going to sound like a huge asshole if I do. And I don't think it's worth the trouble. You know?
Yeah. Well,
I try not to...
Yeah. Oh, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I try to not escalate stuff. I certainly can get into certain topics and things, but, you know.
Have you seen Kung Fu Panda 2, right?
I've only ever seen the first one, so
Um,
no.
so there's a scene like at the end of the second one where they're shooting cannonballs at him,
Yeah,
and he starts learning how to like catch them and throw them back. And I
interesting.
always thought, like, after being like insulted and picked on my life, I started like kind of thinking the idea of basically using your own ammunition against you. And it's kind of like a comedy thing too. Like if someone makes fun of you for having, I don't know, a low IQ, you could probably turn it around and use the low numbers to represent their height or something like that. You know, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Hold on. Never mind. I had an
Probably the best.
insult that I wanted to say that I thought was pretty great, but I don't know if it's one I want to necessarily say on Twitch.
Hate that shit, man.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I don't know. I just try not. I'm not one who wants to get into conflict with people, so I just try to be mindful. You know,
Blessed be the peacemakers.
there's enough angry people in the world without me having to add to that shit.
Yeah. I give unto
Not
you
to
flowers, peace.
not to say there's not stuff that. Yeah, the Aikido method. That's a great way to describe it. Be like water. Piss on their feet.
Be like water. You're the kind of fool who piss in the storm. It gets all over your face. Sorry,
I see, said the blind man pissing into the storm. It's all coming back to me.
My sister would say, I see, said the blind man to his deaf dog.
Ah, that's right. There's more to it. I forgot. It's a haiku. It's. I was just gonna say it's a haiku. I was like, wait, that's not a haiku.
I thought a haiku was like a rhyme that had to have like
Yeah,
7 and 5 and
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
It's yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
I've never been
I'm
one
not
for
educated
poetry.
for this.
I've
I
did
just got
poetry and
back.
stuff in school, but it's like, yeah.
I just got back from working retail for 8 hours. Leave me alone.
Oh God, yeah, no, that is. Poetry is not the first thing that would be on my mind after 8 hours of retail. It would probably be more of like, where's the gin?
I turned the corner holding my styrofoam cup. My thumb break through the cup. I must hurry and clean up the spill. Signed, Andrew.
I mean, I give you props for doing retail. I don't know how. I know for a fact that I would not do well in retail, and that's just like a me thing. That's not like talking shit on anybody. I just know myself.
Skills or anything else.
Well, I mean, I'm an artist, so you know, fill in your exposure joke there.
I mean, you've made more money than I have, so I can't say anything.
I suppose so. I mean, I don't do it
art.
as like a. I mean, I've certainly taken plenty of commissions, and I do commissions. I just don't, you know, it's not something I make a living off of. It definitely is some nice like side money for like bills or just beer money, or like last weekend going to a horror convention, which that was a fun time. Yeah, I actually got. I didn't meet him personally, but I was at a panel with the creator of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I don't know if people know. Dude, he did the Return the Slab voice in person because he was the one that did it in the show, and that was like, oh, this is a magical moment. Return the Slab.
From what I understand, that show wasn't meant to be scary. It was supposed to be like everything was supposed to be from the perspective of a like hyperactive super.
Oh yeah, no, he even said as much. Like he never made it to be scary. It was more just like the comedy of it, and he actually did get into like some like life shit about, you know, how, you know, not like he didn't want anyone to be like a specific villain. It's like everyone had their own reasons for doing what they were doing, or even some sympathies in a number of cases.
I mean,
but
it's weird. Like you can make something like, "Oh, I don't think it'll be scary," and then like it'll scare some people.
oh no, yeah, I'd say that, you know, despite him not making something scary. It's definitely something that most people remember as a scary thing from their childhood. I've personally got a cursed episode of that show that haunts me, because the only times I ever saw it was when I was sick with the stomach flu, and when I tried to rewatch the entirety of Courage like a year or two ago, that was the only episode that was not on Amazon where we were watching it. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a cursed episode. But that's also the one where it's like you're not, like the fetus thing saying you're not perfect is from. So.
Yeah, I think they cut that because of that. Like, it was just too disturbing to kids, they said.
They cut that, but they kept Return the Slab. It's just, man.
My favorite Courage episode is with the barber.
Oh, yeah.
Say, like,
oh, yeah, we were talking. That one is very unhinged.
And I was like, haha, funny man is, shaving Courage. And then someone did, like, a deep dive into it and, like, started making some, like, correlations with, like, real life stuff. And I was like, oh.
Oh, you could do that with, like, any cartoon. Have you seen the SpongeBob Conspiracy Theory channel on YouTube? If you want a rabbit hole of it.
I watch it when I watch like Internet City reacts to it. It's pretty funny.
That channel is such an acid trip. I love it. It's just like, especially with the April Fool's episode that he did, but just the amount of detail he goes into these different SpongeBob episodes for whatever conspiracy theory he's talking about is just, it's wow. It's like
What's funny, too, is, like, he wants to make other things, but everybody's like, more SpongeBob conspiracy! He's like, oh.
Oh, so it's like what happened with the Llamas with Hats guy, where he kind of got stuck doing that, and he's just like, I don't want to keep doing this, so I'm going to make it really fucking weird.
Your creation has grown more empowered in yourself.
Yeah, it's one of the things when it comes to funny. Art and creating, where you can very much end up doing, something that you don't want to keep doing forever because it's the thing that people remember you for,
So, that game that we've been playing, Toonstruck?
I'm not necessarily familiar with it, but refresh my memory.
Let me remember his name. Christopher Lloyd is an animator, and he works for, like, big cartoon conglomerate, like, legally distinct, not Disney. And, like, he has to draw. He created this cartoon called, like, the Fluffy Bun Bun Show, which is, think like, I don't know, Care Bears or My Little Pony, but, bunnies. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, really popular and, like, makes millions. And that's all.
You say Happy Tree Friends?
Without the slapstick or the goriness, it's just it's really just absolute cutesy. It's like cute hell, like. It's okay, friend. I forgive you. Let's have a big hug. Oh, stuff like that. Like,
sorry, what'd you say the show was? I've been kind of looking for reference.
Oh, the game is called Toonstruck.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, so.
Well, I'm just giving you the basic premise, but yeah.
No, I get you. I just forgot what the name was.
He wants to do like his other idea, which was like Flux Wildly, which was like a zany, Looney Tunes slapstick, put dynamite in your pants kind of character. But his job, because this is what makes the money, is to make freaking cute little bunnies, and he hates it.
I mean, I totally get that. I mean, that's not even necessarily just like a commissions thing. Although I will say, like, I do have like certain commissions people tend to come to me for, which I'm fine with doing. Don't get me wrong, but it's also one of those things where it's like I also kind of wish I had more time to work on my own personal projects, like the comic project I want to do. But that's just like more of a time management thing. For what you're saying though, it's more of like what's the term? I think it's called flanderization.
I mean, it happened with Five Nights at Freddy's. The guy.
Yeah.
he made that, and it grew, and he keeps making it, but I don't blame him. It's like it pays the bills.
Yeah, no, I can't really blame the guy for wanting to continue doing those to get paid, because they are definitely very popular games, even if I personally have never played them, and I just don't, not really a fan.
Well,
I can,
I,
from
I,
what
I
I
like
just,
listening to the lore and watching other people play it.
the
I think it's
lore, there's so lore of Five Nights at Freddy's
there
now. This
was
is such a crazy.
well, to
No,
be honest,
there is,
I
there
think
is. I'm being a,
I think
just,
watching it grow,
yeah,
because I think a lot of stories. I think a lot of stories they don't have that the artist and the creator doesn't have a cemented
yeah.
overarching idea of what the story is. I think it evolves over time.
I mean, I certainly you know, my condolences to Markiplier for playing all of them.
I
But
mean, they made him money too. I mean,
they did, yeah.
him and Game Theory. And I watched them, so
Yeah.
and a whole bunch of other people watched them,
I
and
mean,
we
it
had
is what
fun
it
doing
is.
it.
It,
So
you know what I'm gonna say? You know what I'm gonna say? It's just not my cup of tea. I get if people enjoy that. It's just not my cup of tea.
and you know what? I have a saying for this. I heard it. I don't know where, but I heard it when I was a little kid. Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean. But when they ate together, they made the platter clean. And I took that meaning as there are all sorts of different people in the world, but when we work together, we get the job done.
Yeah, pretty much. I've started to get to a point in my life where I don't want to necessarily just trash talk shit all the time. I mean, it's obviously easier said than done, because there's definitely some things out there that definitely get under my skin in terms of creativity wise. But I have my reasons for shit where it's I don't know. There's some times where I just wish people would try harder, or just I think the thing that they're doing is just kind of taking away from X or Y thing. But that's again, that's more of a me thing, you know. With a lot of creative stuff out there, I try to give it the benefit of the doubt for the most part, unless it's AI generated. But that's again whole other conversation. I try to give it the benefit of the doubt, because I realize that I have very personal tastes in what I enjoy. But I also realize, while I do like certain things, I also realize that I'm also can be very opinionated about certain things, just because of what it means to me, or just what it inspired in me for whatever reason. So I know, I'm not going to necessarily get Five Nights at Freddy's, but at the same time, I shouldn't, shit on people for liking it. Now, granted, I do tend to shit on 40K a lot, but it's less for... There's stuff about 40K I do like. It's kind of complicated. It's more of just I don't like what it does in terms of, the Skeleton King type bullshit. And as well, I don't like how people tend to try and be oh, what if 40K was in this thing, or what if this was in 40K? I don't like when people just try to force it into everything.
Yeah, I think it's going through its popular phase. Because back in the day, people would say, if Star Wars and Star Trek mashed together, who would win?
Yeah.
There's always going to be things like
I mean,
that.
that too is Star Wars is something that I could honestly, these days, put a lot of similar complaints to it, like I can with 40K.
Well,
it's just that 40K tends to be more edgy to the point of taking itself seriously than I like.
I think the problem with anything that's created, especially artistic wise or creative wise, is when it becomes popular, it's like a beacon glowing in the darkness, and predatory
absolutely
things come after it.
Absolutely.
And
I can totally agree with. I mean, that's kind of the sad thing to say. I don't want to gatekeep from stuff, but with certain, or when it comes to a lot of fandoms and stuff, there's just if it becomes popular enough, it just hits a point where it takes away from what made that thing so great in the first place.
Well, sometimes it happens, and you know it
Not all
kind
the
of goes
time.
through a
Yeah.
it burns out, it pops and it burns out, and after a while, you know, people who liked it come around and they pick up the ashes and they're like, hey, this was, you know,
Yeah.
they put it back to where it was, and like, this is the name. And the people who were like, oh, the people that were in for it for the quick like gimmick, they're gone on to a new thing. But
Yeah,
the old guard
kinda.
kind of returned. And
For kinda. I mean, the one that comes off of my head right now isn't actually like game related. It's music related. It's like the whole idea of punk, where, um, you know, when punk started as like a type of music or movement, I guess you could say, the punk movement, and I'm talking not about like the 2000s. I'm talking about like the 70s original sort of punk movement, not the later waves and things that came after. Um, a lot of that originally, from what I have learned listening to certain podcasts that go into it, is that a lot of punk originally was very experimental. A lot of it was really just trying different ways of doing music in their own way. It was about the counterculture and being like, well, I'm going to do my music my own way, and damn, you know, everyone else that's going to tell me how to do it. Um, and it made some very interesting music. There's a lot of fun bands I could recommend to people from that time period. And you know, even later on, but the problem that kind of arises in that sort of I guess you could say fandom in this case is that a lot of it tends to get codified, where there's a certain way that people that are fans of it expect it to be, and they tend to gatekeep with it. And that's true of like anything, and it's not an easy thing to deal with. And I'm not saying this with any sort of like decisive opinion as how you handle that in mind. It's just one of those things that can tend to happen with stuff, especially once it goes like mainstream. Not to sound like immediately like a hipster, because I know people tend to say like, "Oh, Crispy's a hipster." I'm not, uh, but
I think
it's just
I think it's
just
like
one
with
of those,
video games. They say it's like eventually people streamline and min max it to the point where it's not
oh,
fun anymore.
absolutely,
And I think that's a part of almost a part of human nature where I know it's going to make it sound like a weird cross reference, but it's like in Minecraft where you try to automate everything to a point, and then when you're done, you're bored, and then you go do something else because you've kind of automated everything. It's like everything has become
is this how
quick
we
and
got
easy, and
Factorio?
I mean, kind of, you know.
It feels like it, because I feel like
It
somebody
makes
got
me
to that point
worry.
in
Like,
Minecraft and was just like, "What if we went further?"
I mean, like, it makes me wonder. Like, imagine just landing on a planet that's like completely automated, but there's no life there. It's just a bunch of machines, like running everything and taking care of everything, but there's just not a soul around. It's like the planet and the cities on it have been running smoothly for like thousands of years,
Yeah,
and there's no one there. It's like it's delivering milk. It's like it's delivering milk to this house, and then after a while, a machine comes by to pick up the spoiled milk.
yeah, it's such an interesting idea for like a place to visit in like a sci-fi setting.
Yeah,
It kind of
like
is
the
like that. The Matrix is probably a good way to look at that. I'm thinking of like
well,
the Expanse personally, because there is the one book where they do go to the alien world, and all the technology there that was from the ring builder starts waking back up, and it causes problems.
there was I think the Oracle herself in the Matrix said like we made a paradise for you several times, and every time you
Yep,
just started burning it down to see what would happen. It's like it's
that's interesting.
in my opinion, like I think we kind of have to have some sort of like problem to fix because we're kind of wired that way, you know.
I think you're absolutely right in terms of what happened with punk. It very much became codified like that because people attempted to apply rules to something that was inherently ruleless. Because it once punk kind of became like a set idea in people's minds, it kind of stagnated the creativity there. That's why it spun off into things like post punk and things.
You know what's kind of a good analogy for it? The Lorax. Think of it.
For what? For
The
punk
guy,
music?
so the guy makes the Sneed, and it becomes so popular that it kind of becomes industrialized and mainstream, and then it kind of dies off, and like there's nothing much left of it or anything else. It's like,
That's yeah. Oh man, there's there's some metaphors there that I could go into, but yeah, that's honestly not a bad way to look at it. Also, I totally forget what fucking wheel wells for a Firebird look like, so screw it. We're just gonna improvise.
white rim tires, white rim tires.
Now I'm like looking at like all the different wheel well patterns online of like what people have in their Firebirds, and it's just like these all look more than I want to deal with drawing at the moment.
What if you just draw a wheel and put the word rim on where the rims are?
That would be pretty funny.
You think we'll like reach, like for like 20 years there'll be a an era where the culture is like hyper basicism, where like all the brand signs and all the signs just have one word or something on it in like flat font and like a gray
I
background. It's like
I, I
burger.
think that was the
Or
2000s, man.
no, I'm like
Oh,
I
like
guess it would be like in what is it? They Live, where it just says obey, but instead of obey,
I'm
it just says like burger
actually that
or R.
that, that does kind of remind me of like some 2010s type graphic design, but that's also because that's when I learned graphic design. I don't
That
know.
reminds me. Have you
I
have you looked at the book for what is it called? Electric. Shit, what is it called?
do
It's the
androids
one
dream of
where like
electric sheep?
no, it's the one where like the girl and the robot are walking through like a kind of like a semi post apocalyptic world. It's an art book. What was it called? Electric.
Well, now
They
I'm
made a
curious
movie of it.
because
It wasn't good. A lot of people that liked the original story didn't like it. It had like Mr. Peanut as the robot leader. Electric
what?
State. That's it. Electric State. Have you looked at that art book?
I've heard of the name. I have not looked at that. No.
I would suggest like giving it a look over because it's very interesting. It's one of those. It's sci-fi, but everything is so almost too comfortably like it's like it could be in 10 years or 5 years or next year, like
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it's
well, even though the story takes place in the 90s from what I understand, and all the robots kind of have a 1960s look.
Oh, that's
That
that
cartoon.
new A20. That's that. They turned that into that new A24 movie, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, I guess A24.
They're kind of like the big. I want to say they're the studio that does like kind of more cerebral slash edgy shit, if that makes sense. Because they're also the ones that did Midsummer and that Civil War
Um,
movie, which I never mind. Yeah, they kind of do like more stuff like that. So I do remember seeing like trailers and stuff for it. Now that you mention it,
I don't know. I was looking at that stuff and I'm like, I wonder if Crispy would like this. The art style
eh,
is very nice. Kind of
I,
creepy, but nice.
I'd check it out.
Now,
I'm
I
least
will
curious to
warn
see.
that there might be some existentialism with it, with the whole like they have these like headsets on that connect you to like I don't know some sort of virtual reality paradise and all that, and apparently, basically, it backfires like it always does, and you've got like millions of people just addictedly like attached to it to where like their corpses littering the ground that have these headsets on, or they're like zombie armies of people just attached to these things walking around with giant robots.
I'm not going to make the comments that I want to make right now, but I can get what you're saying.
Lamau.
Yeah.
Raffle Mao.
Insert
Tickets, please! Tickets!
No ticket!
Sorry, I was thinking about the Pit Fiend train conductor for the Hell train.
Oh, right. That's right. We were talking about the Hell Train the other night, weren't we?
Yeah. I like the idea that the rails have like screaming faces of agony in it when you drive along. Oh!
Was that the night that I brought up the God helmet? Were you there for that?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that was. Oh
We
man,
need to make our own. We need to make our own God helmets.
I would love to make a God helmet. For chat, because they don't know, the God helmet is this really wonderfully stupid idea from I think it's on Netflix, a horror, and I'm using air quotes here, doc called 28 Days Haunted, where it's a bunch of these ghost hunter type peoples staying in this haunted building for whatever reason. And it is probably one of the worst paranormal docs I've seen. And one of the things that happens in it is they get what I can only describe as like a brain wave reading helmet / something it looks like a B version of the Power Rangers would wear type helmet called the God helmet this guy wears. And it is perhaps one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. And he wears this and works himself up into a panic attack to the point where he ends up going to the hospital. But if you want a ghost documentary that will probably give you brain rot, I suggest looking that one up.
Is it like a yellow, old school biker helmet motorcycle?
Oh no! It's I think it's got carbon fiber looking stuff on it.
Because I typed it in, I get like a lot of that picture.
Okay, if you see a doughy-looking redneck bearded guy that looks like he could be a roadie for Limp Bizkit wearing a helmet, that's probably it.
Do you know how little that narrows it down?
I know, there's probably a lot of people in that show that probably could have roadied for Limp Bizkit.
He might have gotten that idea from apparently one of those experiments that the letter agencies did that kind of might have caused people to go insane, if you know what I mean.
Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down?
You know, I'm just gonna say something. I'm superstitious, and I don't care if people think I'm silly.
Hey man.
I'm not going into haunted places, and I'm not messing with Ouija boards because I don't want to bring shit back that I can't contend with.
I personally don't want to mess with Ouija boards, but it's not necessarily just because of like ghosts. It's also like with a lot of that stuff, it's a part of it is as well just like how much do you trust your own brain and the power of suggestion? Yeah. Because I don't even necessarily think that it's like a ghost thing when it comes to the dangers of the Ouija board. I think part of it too is just like what does it open to your subconscious if you're open to it enough, you know?
That's a thing too, but I would say ghost is probably one of the least of your worries. I'm thinking about
I'm not worried about
things. You know, like there's this movie coming out. One line that I like is, "If you dance with the devil long enough, he'll follow you home." And I'm like,
I mean, I've met some interesting people at the bars, so yeah.
Rail, I'm not superstitious. I'm perfectly reasonable amounts of stitious. Don't fuck with spooky stish. Don't raise your own deck flags. Yes, that's true.
I mean, yeah, I just don't fuck with stuff just because it's like, I don't think... When it comes to ghosts and stuff, I think most of that stuff is kind of... nonsense
I mean,
garbage. But at the same
I do
time,
too, but I don't want to risk it, you know? Like, especially against
yeah,
something that you can't physically punch in the face. As much as I'm
yeah.
like, I want to be a pacifist, like,
I mean,
I
my
also
my
like,
my whole view on it is more of like, I think that when it comes to that sort of stuff, I think there could be a possibility where intense enough events could leave a sort of, for lack of a better term, psychic impression on
like,
a place. I think that that could possibly explain some hauntings, but I also am just saying that as someone that wants to believe, so I'm not going to say that that's for true certain. I think a lot of the ghost adventures, ghost hunting stuff is absolutely garbage. That is not true, you know.
what if,
But
what if Crispy, what if the ghost and the demons are playing the long con? What if they're not like, what if they're not being active and making it like, oh, we don't exist, and then like people will start joking around and playing with it, and then when there are enough harvestable gullible people messing around, they can finally jump on it and strike and be like, ah, gotcha, bitch.
well, personally, I'm more thinking about like, what if there's kind of an overlap between this sort of thing and this sort of paranormal thing, and possibly like UFO encounters, where it's not so
What
much ghosts or aliens, it's just something that we're perceiving with part of our brains we don't fully understand, or something from another dimension.
what do they call it when it's like it's mass hysteria? That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of what you're thinking, right? Mass hysteria.
Kinda, sorta. That definitely plays into a lot of that stuff. I'm more thinking of it from like a more like wooey woo perspective in that regard, where it's, and this is more of like, it's fun to think about, where it's,
Yeah.
like with some of this stuff, and there can be some overlap, and it just kind of makes me wonder where it's like, is some of this possibly just like us not understanding part of, like, maybe it's like sort of a collective unconsciousness thing, maybe it's just us interacting with something that we don't fully comprehend. I don't know.
Like
I'm just spitballing
imagine
here.
like imagine if there's like a very quiet hive mind that we kind of have access to, but we like, we're not really that conscious of.
I mean, that's you're basically describing the collective unconscious with that one. So yeah, it's possible. I don't want to say things for certain, because unfortunately, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, even if you do believe somewhat relatively skeptically with things, you can still have people that'll ridicule you for it, or just stuff that'll ruin your life, unfortunately. Which is the sad part about a lot of this stuff, is people want to like nitpick, paranormal activity and things that happen, and say, oh, these people are just trying to make money and things, and that absolutely does happen. Don't get me wrong, but there are people that have very compelling experiences in one way or another, and unfortunately, be, because of how people are, and also because unfortunately there's a lot of people that will take advantage of what X or Y thing to insert their own bullshit into it, or just be part of the story, where it makes it so you can't really look into this stuff without being roped in with all that shit. It's kind of unfortunate,
Kind of like
because it
cultural zeitgeist.
that could play part of it too, I would say.
Like how aliens have evolved. Like aliens kind of started out as little green men and goblins and all that, and then they eventually evolved into just being the Greys all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's part of what I'm sort of saying, is like, what if our perception of this sort of thing is just some sort of entity, kind of going off the popular consciousness, or just like our own, you know, mental idea of what X or Y thing should be.
Because I've
It's just
noticed
one of those
like
things that's interesting to think about.
I noticed like after Slenderman, like the typical horror thing tends to be skinny, long, lanky thing, and a lot of the monsters are like have
Kinda.
like
I
a
mean,
lanky or tall black body with a white face.
that. Well, kinda. What's funny is that's kind of playing into the idea of the Men in Black, in a sense, and that actually goes back far more than what you would think
Oh
with
yeah.
the Men in Black movies. But again, a whole other conversation. I mean, I think of like the Greys and things as well. Those existed before.
Oh
The thing about
God, have you?
Slenderman with me, with, oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, have you seen the I think it was the 2000s movie Mothman?
I have not.
God, you know what? I don't
Is
think
it
you should
bad?
watch it. It's more like messing with your brain psychological than anything to do with the actual monster. It's like it's almost like somebody's going insane, and
Yeah.
it made me uncomfortable watching it. It's like,
See, it's funny you say that because when it came to like the whole Point Pleasant like Mothman sightings, there was actually like a whole wave of UFO
oh yeah,
and Men in Black sightings, which you could obviously you could say is like, oh, this maybe it is like some sort of paranormal thing, but also part of it I think too, which is also kind of funny, is that I wonder if some of those Men in Black sightings were nervous nerds who heard about all the stuff going on in Point Pleasant and went to go investigate because paranormal activity researchers uh, aren't exactly the most sociable people, as one could imagine. So it's possible that people had these like some weird guys show up and ask all these strange questions, uh, and that story
imagine
got around to another guy that was also investigating, and they thought, oh, maybe this is a Man in Black, or maybe this is an alien, and then that's how you get shit.
imagine like an anime expo nerd from like this year. Take him
Oh
back to
God.
like 1946 and put him in a black suit and sunglasses and say, "Yeah, go in that room and talk to that guy."
Oh God.
He had weird stubble all over his face, and he
You
had
know,
this
it's
high
funny.
pitched voice.
They say that grays smell like farts, and that's now making me rethink things.
He was like he stank and he kept sweating. He wanted water.
It
He said something about skibbity toilet. I don't understand.
is funny because I did hear some Men in Black stories where they like ask for like a glass of water and things like midway through a conversation to take a pill. So
Yeah, like I heard that those are like the man-made Men in Black, or like aliens made people. What was that
kinda,
one
yeah,
guy that
yeah.
showed up? There's that one. Oh God, I can't remember his name, but he was like the guy that kept showing up and talking to this
Indrid
one
Cole.
dude. Yeah, Injured Cold.
Yeah, he's kind of related to the Mothman actually. So man, I hope chat's enjoying our fucking deep ass paranormal lore.
I mean, we could be talking about real shit, and then that's when things get bad.
Uh, Philippines cryptids. I actually don't really know Philippines cryptids too well. I'd be curious to learn about some. I know I've
Yeah.
heard of some like the Brazilian cryptids and things like the Dolphin Man that kind of like disguises itself like putting a hat over its blowhole. Um, I thought you were going to say Philadelphia cryptids, and I'm like, that's just probably like every fourth person in Philly.
Wouldn't that be the Jersey Devil?
That's New Jersey. Which actually, the
Which,
story behind that is kind of funny because the Jersey
oh
Devil,
yeah,
part of it came from Benjamin Franklin shitposting on his rivals.
yeah.
So,
That's one of those like truth is stranger than fiction things.
oh yeah, no, the story of like how the Jersey Devil came to be is way more interesting than the idea of the Jersey Devil itself. Like, it involves Ben Franklin. It involves like dudes like getting a kangaroo and like dressing it up. It involves like all this like mass hysteria. It's really it's honestly kind of fun with a lot of this stuff. Not so much like the paranormal end of it, but just like how these things get created. Like the idea of Slenderman, going back to that. Like all that literally
That
came
was
from the
a
internet. It
Yeah,
was like
that
a
was like
4chan.
a 4chan like campfire story stuff that like
Yeah, it
got
was one
sold in
that
Canada girls and things.
yeah, because like 4chan back in the day used to like really just kind of sit up and brainstorm ideas for things like cryptids and such, depending on the board, I guess you could say, which is pretty fun. Um, and it's
Ooh.
just interesting to see how it got taken from like a story that got made up on the internet to, well, I guess more of a more dark turn, something that two girls would like try to stab their friend to death over, because that was like the whole Slender Man stabbing thing. I think that happened at like 20 teens or something. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but
So I'm looking up Philippine cryptids. There's the Anito, ancestral spirits, the dead, Acta, another name for coppery. Here's one that I'm like, I want to explain it to you, and I'd love to see you draw it. Try to draw it one day. Deformed winged spirits with fingers and toes that point backwards.
Man, that sounds like some Salvador Dali shit. I would totally draw
I
that.
know. Like, what do you mean point backwards? Like their fingers are bent backwards? Like,
Sometimes my arms been back.
ugh. I'm a mungo, a man-sized ape with long nails.
I think that's just Gary Busey on a Friday.
Anikditia, female beings like centaurs, the opposite of Tikbangnanga. And then the ball, an undead monster
I
that
don't
feeds on
even.
corpses.
I don't even want to try and like pronounce cryptid names because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Batibot, demons in the form of obese hags. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. Oh, let's see. Ramshackle says the Mananalaga. I know I'm butchering it. I don't care anymore.
yeah, no. I listen. If you're gonna come to me for like pronunciation of cryptid names, like from the Philippines. I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you.
I don't see that on this list. I'll have to copy and paste it. I saw one recently that's really disturbing. You can't really talk about it on stream, but it's like it's kind of funny too if you think about it.
I just think of the squonk. The squonk is, I think my favorite local cryptid.
Let's see, a mythical creature in Philippines that is able to separate its upper torso. Oh yeah, I knew about that. I thought that was from Brazil or something. They made a
That sounds
cartoon
like
series about that.
that almost sounds like a Japanese cryptid. Although the
Yeah,
Japanese like spirits and things get real crazy.
it separates its upper torso from its lower body. Their fangs and wings give them a vampire-like appearance. Yeah, I remember.
Sounds pretty metal.
They made like a kind of like Philippine anime based off of that, where the main heroine was that, and like in the anime, their upper half is like flying around, while their lower half is standing there, and I think like their intestines are still connected or something like that, like
That's
a tether.
wild.
Yeah. Ooh. Kayamang, a giant crab that sometimes bites the giant eel Cassili, because Cassili to wriggle and produce earthquakes. A similar crab named Kagana that does. There's a lot of lore that has stuff like earthquakes are caused by a giant serpent like throwing a fit.
Yeah, there's a lot of that where it's just like X or Y creature causes natural disaster. Which I mean, I can see why something like that would happen because it's essentially, people tried to figure out why, the ground rumbled and destroyed their entire village, or a giant wave came out of nowhere.
Kalapao and Burkakauka, giants who can change size at will and can be slain through mortal means. Like,
Interesting.
that's like, what's your special power? I could be killed by any means a person can. I'm like, that's not a power, friend.
Well, actually, you touching on giant humanoids there's like a whole thing when it comes to giant humanoids in history.
Oh
and
yeah, I know.
yeah.
That
There's also the story of the Cardiff Giant, which is probably one of my favorite examples of shitposting, where a guy essentially spent several years making a giant, a fake giant out of stone, and burying it in the ground. And part of the reason it took so long is because he had it buried and wanted it to settle. Also, he could have someone dig it up, and so he could shitpost on. Because he had an argument with a clergyman, because apparently there was very much an idea back then where giant humanoids were very much a possible thing that happened according to scripture in America.
Yeah,
And this guy just
Nephilim.
like, yeah, the Nephilim is like the big thing with that, I guess. But this guy was like
Angels. They were like they're the children of angels and earth women. Angels have come down and like fancy a woman, and then they do the deed, and then she give birth to basically,
which is pretty wild because apparently they could be like I'm talking like 400 feet tall. Shit got
I,
real.
I I remember reading somewhere that a Nephilim could get so big that when it moved, it would cause the air to catch fire or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's wild. Like there's a whole book of the book of Enoch, I think is what it's called, that they essentially omitted it from the Bible. God, this is
yeah,
I don't. This is starting to get into like waters I don't want to get into, just because this could open up a whole can of worms. But
yeah.
apparently, part of that was like this whole story about the Nephilim being part of the reason why the Great Flood happened. That's more of what I'm just going to say and leave it at that. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to open a can of worms with that. It's just more of like interesting things you find in terms of like writing and such from back then.
Well, there's all sorts of stories of giants, especially hairy giants. Like, I think there were
Oh
some
yeah,
during the like the conquistadors. They saw like giant hairy men throwing rocks at them
yeah.
and shit.
There was a number of tales of that, which, to be honest, considering the size of Europeans back then, I could see that somewhat being true, but exaggerated, where they could have come to America and they could have met natives who were much more tall because of their diet and other reasons. Because, I mean, when you look at our ancestors back, they're like their normal height. Like Napoleon's, I mean, everyone, like, there's a whole thing about Napoleon being a short guy, but he was actually relatively normal size for the time. Like, people used to be very tiny. And people got larger due
Remember?
to better nutrition. I mean, you want to see a great example of that in the modern day. Actually, there's a picture of, I guess it's like a someone that defected from North Korea, and he's being escorted by a South Korean and an American, and he is so much smaller than either one of them. And it's just crazy to see the difference in that. It's like, I mean, and you can see why, if you're like, say, a European explorer who comes from a place where you don't necessarily have the greatest diet, and you would come to America, to a place where people can essentially get plenty of nutrients off the land. I could see why that would be an idea of where people are just these giants.
Well, I think there was a story like where the Russian army found like a cave that had like this big man, and then they're opening fire on it. And they said our weapons barely do anything to it. They eventually
Oh, that
shot it.
that was actually an American story in Afghanistan,
Oh.
if I remember correctly. I mean, there might have been a Russian one too, but that was like a coast to coast thing where it's like
One of those. That might be one of those like old army stories that get passed around.
it was
Like
on like a
wives'
talk show
tale.
or something. I don't remember if it was exactly on Coast to Coast. Which, if people don't know
Well,
what Coast to Coast is, if you want like weird shit at 3 a.m., Coast to Coast is your bet for that.
do you remember I was telling you about that Bigfoot show that eventually fell apart because they think they found out that the host and his brother were lying about their encounter?
I know that there was an event that involved that. I don't know if it's the same event, but I know there
What
was
I'm
there
getting
was a
at is
famous one
that
where they like had a cooler full of deer guts in a Bigfoot
no,
gorilla
no,
suit they
no, that
passed
was
off.
yeah, that was a while. That was like God, that was like 10, 20, not
Oh,
20,
it was
maybe
a long
15
time
years
ago.
ago.
It was not
Yeah, yeah.
recent.
Well, no, I'm talking about like there. It was like Sasquatch Radio or something like that. But they had this one guy on, and he swears he was with the military. One of his jobs was to sit in a helicopter and use like a 50 caliber rifle to like take out Bigfoot, like to cull Bigfoot so that their population wouldn't get so big that they'd like start going into the cities. And he said the reason like the big head honchos don't want like great apes and all that,
Ah,
the American great apes to be found, is because it would threaten the American logging industry.
I mean,
And you
I,
might be
I
wondering,
suppose I could see that. I'm kind of iffy when it comes to Bigfoot, especially
oh yeah,
depending on the area. I definitely feel like there's spots it's more plausible, but yeah.
well, I mean,
I see Phoenix. You mentioned the door jam that was like 6 feet high. I think that's honestly, I feel like a modern door jam is like at least a foot or two higher than that. So, I mean, it makes sense if it's 6 foot is kind of small when you think about the average height of people. You know.
And I'm 5'9" or 5'10" or
Yeah,
whatever.
I think I'm like
So
5'11" or something like that. Like I'm probably not too dissimilar. I might be 6 foot at this point. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's
I mean,
like
if you want something that's like freaky, like look up like missing 411 or something like that. Like makes
um
me not want
I
to, makes me want to go into the
I
national
have
park.
I have watched the docs for that, and there's definitely some really like they definitely make it very eerie. Um, but I was watching a YouTube video. Jesus, that just makes me sound like I was watching a YouTube video.
Video.
No, you know what? I'm actually going to look up the name of the YouTube video real quick because I want people to see the source that I did, and they can decide for themselves. But it was somebody kind of looking into a number of disappearances that happened in my state, in Pennsylvania, uh, just over the years, and a lot of the Lore Lodge is the name of the YouTube channel, and it's the video of why did so many children go missing in 20th century Pennsylvania. And honestly, a lot of them kind of just boil down to the kid kind of wandered off, or like the person kind of wandered off, and they were either like found later, or they had like fallen into like some kind of accident that
Yeah.
unfortunately killed them. So it's like
And
I'm not. I mean, I'm sure there's some very mysterious disappearances out there. Don't get me wrong, but it's
well, I saw a correlation, and they said that a lot of the disappearances happened really close to where people would find like very shallow or steep openings to underground
yeah.
cave systems.
No, I mean I believe
And like
that. I'm
apparently like
yeah
holes in the ground that just basically almost disappear into the earth
yeah.
aren't
Well, I
as
mean
uncommon as you think.
I'm thinking of like quarries, for instance, because we have a
Abandoned mines.
abandoned mines like quarries. I mean quarries that were just filled in with water. For instance, we have a lot of those, and you know, I could very easily see someone going into one of those and something happens and they just disappear. I unfortunately do know at least one person that drowned swimming in a quarry because it was because of like the shock of the cold and things that unfortunately they were like out in the middle of it, and there was like other circumstances with it too. But I digress.
I know a
They're not a safe place to
I had a
swim, is what I'm
coworker
saying.
who died because a sinkhole opened up in the middle of the highway, and it was
Oh
like
my god.
early enough. It was early enough in the morning where you couldn't see it. Like imagine going 65 miles an hour on the same road you go every day for like 10 or 20 years. You know, chances are you might just be like thinking of something. You're on autopilot. You're not going to see that gaping hole that just
That's
opened up an hour.
that's so
And
scary.
like seeing like three other cars had piled into it, and she her like
Wow.
her like a bunch of her internal organs were ruptured because like another car landed on top
Oh,
of
she was just
hers.
going that fast. It wasn't just because she got like swallowed up by it. It was like just the immediate stuff.
Yeah,
That that makes
it's literally like going
sense.
into a hole that you don't know is there.
Oh
It's
yeah, it's like have you seen Mad
I
Max
think it
Fury
just
Road?
happened. I think there was like a leaky pipe or something underneath the road, and it just
No,
after
yeah.
years.
I could think of at least one place where um there's a sinkhole that just constantly opens up because the entire town is built essentially over, I want to say like a limestone or something. It's like something specific where it essentially means there's going to be sinkholes all the time.
Yep.
Um, so it's, I mean that's such a scary thing too, sinkholes. And I mean also just to go off of that is Centralia. That's like kind of one of the more infamous things about Pennsylvania is Centralia, where it's the coal mining town where there's a fire still going, but
Yeah, it's that one, the one
I
that
think
Silent Hill's based off of.
yep, that one, where I think the story of it essentially was it was an abandoned coal mine that they were storing garbage in or something along those lines, and a fire started that essentially got into like a deeper coal vein that they couldn't get to. So it essentially was just burning forever, and it swallowed up parts of the town, and the rest they just essentially evacuated. Although there are still some people living there. Um,
I've
at
been
least if
living here for 60
yeah,
years. I ain't moving just 'cause no
yeah,
damn smoke.
essentially yeah. But well, here's the thing: having been there, you don't really see like giant sinkholes and things when you go to the main part of town. Um, the thing that's eerie about it is you just see like these cities, like these town streets, like you can obviously see it's like blocks and things, but it's like overgrown with trees, and you see, essentially what would have been connected houses, parts of them still standing because they're where people that didn't want to move still live, at least of like
Oh
10
yeah.
years ago. I think the eeriest thing that I saw there
Oh,
was the church with the cemetery that was largely filled with children. Um, the one thing I will say that I am sad about is there was this stretch of highway that used to be there that essentially got covered up because by the local landowners, because I guess they just didn't want trespassers and things. But it was a section of highway that was basically a big canvas of graffiti. There was a lot of penises, but there was a lot of graffiti there, and it was like a very like if you would go to Centralia, like that was one of the spots people would normally like go to as like a thing to see. But it's unfortunately covered up now. However, the beer brewery Trogs does have a graffiti highway IPA in honor of that. So that's kind of a fun little bit of my state's history. So
that we were talking about, the 401 missing. That reminded me of one that like just sounds eerie and scary. Is like this football player. He goes jogging out in the woods.
that's his first mistake
Like
is
he
jogging.
goes, yeah, he goes missing, and like they follow like they find his phone or something, and so they use his phone like trail to like figure out where he went, and they were like
Bully
he
Snake,
tried to
that's
make a
horrifying.
call.
I just want to say
Well,
also
hold
that
on,
the
hold
fact it's
on.
called Pitcher, Oklahoma makes it kind of ironic. Sorry, I was replying to comments. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm sorry. Well,
No,
what
you're
I was
fine. You're
saying
fine.
was,
I just kind of interrupted. So
oh no, that's all. I'm sorry. It's your, but the thing was that was creepy is like he tried to make a phone call, and it was like interrupted, and they were able to track like his movements through like the cell phone tower, and like at one point he was moving like 3 times the speed of a normal human, like through the
hmm.
woods, and he ended up like on the other side of this. His phone ended up on the other side of the city, or near the other side of the city limits. What like in 3 hours, and like he shouldn't. They're like, there's no way in the world a man could run that fast, especially for three
Did he just
hours.
disappear?
Yeah, he disappeared, and like
Okay.
they use.
Slight
Okay, this is
follow
this is. A,
follow up question. Was it an area that you could have had a vehicle in?
uh, it was in the woods.
Hmm.
They don't. Yeah, they don't think that he was on a vehicle.
Okay. Because that was my first thought was like maybe it was
I mean,
just
if
like
he
he
was on
got
a motorcycle going through the woods,
yeah.
maybe, but for three
I'm,
hours straight, and like,
I mean I don't know. It's definitely an eerie case, and having been out in the woods, both locally because uh, fun fact, Pennsylvania is from essentially means Penn's Woods, um, which is named after William Penn. But I digress. Um, and also, I've been like to like West Virginia and stuff, so I've been in like deep woods. I can definitely see that being a very, very eerie place that you could see people going missing in. So I don't know, it's hard to say. You can always kind of, I guess, I don't want to always just be like it's paranormal, but there's definitely
yeah, yeah,
those instances where it's like okay, there is no concrete logical answer to this, so something happened that we don't understand. I'm not saying that means it's aliens or anything paranormal by any stretch, but it's just like Like some weird shit happened here and we can't explain it. And that's the stuff that gets interesting to me, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ninja
Well,
Turtles asking, "What is Crispy drawing?"
I am drawing Richard Smasher, or Dick Smasher for short. And I also realized I need
Name's
to.
Richard Smasher.
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck up your Pizza Hut. Actually, I will be right back shortly.
Oh God, he's left me alone with you guys. All the things I could say, the things I could say. Yeah, if you're interested in that stuff, look up like Missing 411 or 411, or you could go on YouTube and like they're usually like fake stories, but like what are they called? The guys the forester, like forest ranger stories out in the woods. I mean, one of the scariest ones is real is because the guy's being stalked by a mountain lion for like a cute few days. I remember I was going through we called it the branch. It was kind of like a small swampy part in our land. I was just walking through it and I heard a deer just book it. And I knew it was a deer, but like my little child brain and body had already started running home because I was like, it's deer, even though like deep inside I was like, that's just a deer, you stupid. Actually, the worst thing to worry about in the
I
woods
have
are
returned.
the homeless people or just people that go out there that like have bad intentions.
Oh, there's definitely plenty of that in the woods. If you want a really horrible case of that, oh god, what's it? Oh, I think it's called the backpack murders out in Australia. God, we are getting real grim on this episode today.
Richard Smasher is an enthusiast of Star Sector and Glocks.
I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like he would enjoy a Beretta. He doesn't look like a man that would want any sort of prissy plastic gun.
Lol.
He wants made America.
How many like gas station knives do you think he has?
You know what? I'll bet you he has the entirety of the BUDK catalog. I bet you he gets that magazine sent to him, even though it's like 2025. I don't even know if BUDK is still around. I just remember if you wanted like some fucking Mall Ninja type shit, that was the place for it.
Look, this knife is shaped like a dragon. I bet it could kill a man.
I, you know what? If there's a local mall with a knife store, he definitely is like a frequent customer. He's got like a whole fucking wall of his
There has to be a
apartment.
YouTube channel of a guy that like just goes into gas stations and malls and looks at the knives and like critiques them.
Oh, I would not be surprised if that is a thing that exists.
You know, he has a podcast and he has like two or three guests on, and he knows the brands and he talks about it. And he knows like the lore, and he knows like he's like, oh, this one brand, like he actually knows like legitimate concerns that one brand has, like, oh, these guys are assholes, they're not steal your money, they're not using real steel, they're using
Andy,
like
you
wood
joke about
block.
it, but I'm like 90% sure that's probably out there as a thing. In fact, if I'm sure someone in chat probably listens to something like that.
It's like he has some comments. It's like, man, I miss when you just talked about mall knives. Now all you do is just shit on this company.
Oh my god, that's so true though. It hurts. He just like starts getting brand deals from like I don't know what's like a shitty knife company. What's like the
Look at this
Caltech of
Kabuto,
knives? Yeah,
this
Kabuto.
Kabuto Batman knife. Man, I hated when Bob Knifer got mainstream. Man, he just changed. All that money went to his head.
All that sick ass Mall Ninja knife money.
Yeah, and then he like fell out of favor because he I don't know, he said something uncouth or something, or got or like took a
Yeah,
picture in the
he talked shit
bathroom
on
or something.
Craftsman, and then that got him in trouble. Actually, no, he
He's
talked
like
shit on like
denying
Harbor Freight.
it.
I will say this about Harbor Freight: I'm very disappointed they don't carry plungers.
I don't have plungers.
Yeah,
Is that like your Harbor Freight, or is that all Harbor Freights?
look, if I did it, it definitely wasn't a case of we didn't have a plunger because my wife never needed a plunger before me. But you know, sometimes you just gotta like get something in a hurry, and you think that Harbor Freight has it, and it turns out they don't, because I guess there is no plungers in harbors and or freights.
Harbor Freight, everything but plungers.
Yeah. I hope they have like a V8 plunger. That's what they need to make. I'm gonna write them and tell them they need to build one of those.
V8 plunger.
Mm. Jiggles, if you're gonna buy a Harbor Freight welding machine, I definitely suggest like bulletproof glass around it.
Is Harbor Freight like the Costco of like tools and such?
I mean, I want to say kinda. I never really shopped there myself. I just know that apparently they're not of the highest quality. What was it Boba said? Made from the finest Chinese pot metal or something like that? I don't remember.
Oh God. Actually, that reminds me. Have you ever like get recommendations on your channel for like watching people from India like melt down metal and stuff, and then like turn it into other things?
I do not, but that actually does sound like it'd be a very interesting channel to watch.
Well, like they show like the guys like they melt down steel and scrap and stuff, and they turn into like ball bearings or something like that. And I look at the comments, and it's full of guys are like complaining about OSHA compliance and how like, oh, that's not proper steel. It's going to snap when you put it into a tractor or something like that. It's like,
do they realize who they're talking to?
well, and then they're like these guys aren't going to live long because of the chemicals and all that smoke. Like, there was one guy that was welding with some sandals on that I was concerned about because or like steel strips.
I'm just gonna say this. I don't think they necessarily are people that care about health and safety when it comes to shit like that. So, like, I know there's probably plenty of companies, even here in the U.S. alone, that probably just don't care about OSHA. So, I can't imagine how a country on the other side of the world would feel about OSHA. Especially, I mean, God, I don't want to say anything negative, but it's just like, I mean, we have YouTube. You can just probably look up plenty of, like, shit for yourself in that regard. It's probably not a place that values health and safety a lot, is what I'm trying to say.
Another cow cyst popping video. I need more of this in my
I
life.
don't want to ever see. I'm more offended by that than anything else. Ugh.
Oh, look, another hoof cleaning video. Boy, oh boy.
My wife watches Dr. Pimple Popper sometimes, and I have to leave.
God,
I have to leave.
Mother watches that too. It's like
if I want body horror, I'll just watch John Carpenter's The Thing. I don't need to see it in real life.
Oh.
God, that show is so vile. I'm sure it probably feels real good for the people that are getting their pimples popped, but it's not something I can watch myself. Like, I had a couple years ago, I had like a mole that kind of turned into like God, this is so gross. I had to go in and get like a thing removed via dermatology, and they used a laser and shit to do it, and I didn't even look at that because I didn't want to see that.
Ask a question. I know this might make people think less of me.
Andy, we don't exactly have a high bar.
If they like pulled something out of me, like a growth or something, and I would want to keep it in a jar full of formaldehyde and like have it on a shelf. Be like, look at this. This was inside me.
I don't think they let you do that, unfortunately.
It's mine.
Well, see, when I had my adenoids taken out years ago, I kind of wanted to keep those, but they just kind of get rid of them. They wouldn't. I don't even think they let me see them.
Like,
It would be
say
cool,
something
like
controversial.
it would be cool, like to have that. But unfortunately, I honestly just don't think most places will let you keep those nowadays. Also, I'm
Krispy
horrified to
Kreme.
know that there is a r/popping. I should be surprised that that exists, but you know, now that I know it exists, I'm horrified. I think I'd rather go to Live Leak. Not actually, Live Leak's horrifying.
but, uh, you know what's
Oh
also
Jesus!
funny is watching animals, like watching chiropractors work on animals. Like
Oh,
this guy, this guy goes up to like a pit bull and like pops his neck, and a pit bull looks at him like he's not sure if he should like maul the guy to death or thank him. He's
it's
like,
like
what just
I
happened?
want to bite your throat, but God, that feels so much better.
He does it to horses, and the horse is like, what? All the
Okay,
animals had the same
that's
reaction.
a
It's like,
brave choice. There is to try and do chiropractic on a horse.
I
Horses are
know,
not exactly like the most gentle of creatures, especially when they're startled.
but it's so funny. Every animal has the same reaction. It's like they have this look of like, did you just hurt me? But something
Yeah,
else is going on here. I don't
I,
understand.
honestly, I think that's probably true of people too. So it's kind of a universal thing. Like maybe that's all they needed to do in Alien was just like give the xenomorph like some chiropractic. He probably would have stopped killing them. I don't know.
I mean,
He's got all those
everybody has
vertebrae.
looked. Everybody has looked at the rack and seen people being stretched and think for the first like 20 seconds that probably feels good.
Yeah, I've honestly had that thought as well. Like I see those chairs you can flip upside down in, and I'm like, man, that just seems so nice. Like some days my back hurts, and I just like, God, I wish I had a torture rack to just put myself in for like I don't know, like 5 minutes. Just like crank it like maybe I don't know, like 2 or 3 clicks, just enough where like I feel it, and I think we're
I
good.
uh
You know.
I was part of like the oldest clutch of kids out of the family. So I had lots and lots of like younger cousins. And so we just let them like jump at our backs and like stomp around. We'd just be there like, "Oh."
I used to walk on my mom's back for her. I mean, I thought it was as fun as a kid, and then when I got older and I went to a chiropractor, I'm like, oh, that's why she had me do that. This feels amazing.
I was wondering when you said when I got older, part of my brain was like it's she started complaining about it.
Yeah, I gave her the people's elbow off the rope. Oh man, yeah, it's because some my back like hurt a while ago, and I went to a chiropractor for like the first time, and I left there like, wow, that shouldn't have worked, but I feel so much better. Because it's
Are
like,
xenomorphs
hmm?
Sorry, I was gonna say, are xenomorphs
Oh god,
endomorphic or are they exo?
oh
Do they
god,
have
what does that mean?
endoskeletons?
Oh, I forget what endomorphic means.
I think I got it wrong. I meant exoskeleton, endoskeleton or exoskeleton.
Oh,
I thought
oh,
they were exoskeleton.
yeah, they've got an exoskeleton. Uh, they definitely have an exoskeleton.
Endomorphic. Let me go look that up.
Because I'm remembering in Alien versus Predator when he essentially skins one and uses his shell to create armor for the
Oh,
lady.
endomorphic have soft, curvy body types. Why, like An endomorphic xenomorph would be like a really or not really, but a slightly chubby, pudgy xenomorph.
Oh,
That'd be a
pudgy.
funny
Okay.
picture.
See, I was thinking of like certain kinds of xenomorph art that probably you need to go to certain parts of the internet for.
No, you'll summon Spara.
There's honestly the things that Spar sends me are nothing that I haven't seen already. There was that one Chimera picture from Full Metal Alchemist that I wanted to post the other day, but somebody beat me to it. That upset people. I was like, damn it! It goes to the same place as I am, the degenerate.
You didn't have a problem with it until you found out I was using humans. Yeah, you're using fucking humans.
I feel like that is probably not the first time that defense has been used.
I'll tell you what, that's a way of getting out of child support. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Yeah, it turns out. Don't need to worry about alimony if you use them as test subjects.
Kind of wish I could play that brrrr sound. Was it the Watcher?
The Watch from oh, I know the sound you're talking. Isn't that from like Spider-Man? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the sound you're talking about. The Prowler. That's it. Yeah. God, I've seen so many YouTubers use that for shit. It's just funny every time, just because it's just like so cursed. Like, if I ever worked for like psyops in the military, I would definitely. That would be one of the things where I would do is I'd put that on like speakers and helicopters and just like circle places playing that every night. Yeah, I think an endomorphic xenomorph is just a deathclaw.
Yes. Howdy doody, YouTube. It's Goofy's Mall Knife Reviews show.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would switch between like Screeches of the Damned and then like Goofy. Like Goofy singing like nursery rhymes.
No, I was thinking Goofy Vampire Hunter.
Goofy singing "Hurt." I hurt myself today.
I think Donald Duck would sing that, and it would like show flashbacks of him, all his little military. When he's in the Navy and the Army.
Okay, that reminds me. There's an animation I need to send you later. Also, I had a more horrible thought than that. I had the idea of Daffy or Donald Duck singing "Master of Puppets" instead. I think that would probably drive people more insane than anything. If you were just singing just now, it got completely clipped, so it must have been really good and or bad, depending on your point of view.
I was trying to do Donald Duck singing.
I'm not even gonna try. Yeah, Goof. I want to see Goofy rapping 8 Mile as part of like a U.S. Army psyop like playlist.
I'm sure somebody has done Goofy doing 8 Mile already.
I think would that not one be surprised.
Done it already. The guy that did Goofy, wake me up.
Oh, I love that one.
Wake
That's a pretty good one.
Inside.
Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Oh God, look at this beautiful specimen of denim and poor life choices.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your real father. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father.
Yeah, I could see why Luke would have let go of that. Search your feelings, you know it to be.
Search your feelings, Black, so you know it to be true. Darth Goof.
You know what? I would have so much rather had that than what we got with episodes, the new trilogy.
I mean, we know it because the helmet is basically like Goofy's face, but all black and shiny.
Stop it! I don't need that in my brain. It's hard enough to watch those movies sometimes.
Oh, this is like Empire Strikes Back. It's one of the good ones.
Oh yeah, it's real good when you just make Empire Strikes Back in reverse and more poorly. I'm really glad they decided putting Leia in there as Mary fucking Poppins.
I mean, I would do Mary Poppins. Like, I think Mickey Mouse would probably be Yoda because he's small and.
I hate this.
I think Donald Duck would be Han Solo.
Look, if I'm gonna remake Star Wars, it's gonna be like less of Disney and more of Pulp Fiction. I'm just gonna say that much.
I kind of just realized.
No, we're not doing Donald as Chewbacca.
Well, Pluto is Chewbacca.
Oh,
and also,
God.
I was like, I just realized that it's not too unexpectedly a sense of reality that.
Is Michael Eisner Emperor Palpatine? Is that what we're doing?
No, Pete.
They have Walt Disney frozen. They have Walt Disney frozen in carbonite.
No, Pete. Peglet Pete would be Palpatine, and Goofy would be Vader.
Oh God, it's too late for me, my XC. Darth Goofy sounds like the most horrifying
Witness
shit.
the power of this completely operational battle station.
Witness the power of this completely operational Disney theme park. It's just like the Epcot ball has a laser in it that just blows up Alderaan for some reason.
God, who would play?
Actually, no, it blows up
Tarkin.
Key West because it's Florida.
Oh, I know who would play Tarkin. Scrooge McDuck.
Oh, I was gonna say Michael Eisner, but that works too.
No, it has to be like the cartoon characters. Scrooge McDuck.
I don't know. I do like the. I just want Michael Eisner to be Palpatine because Disney. Also, instead of the garbage compactor it being an alien creature, it's just an alligator. It's accurate to the Disney lore.
He's reasonable. You be fire and ready. You're far too trusting. I mean, Minnie Mouse would be. Well, if Minnie Mouse is going to be Leia, I guess.
You're far too trusting, Tampa. You're far too trusting of Tampa. Oh
no,
God.
The Goofy.
I'm getting more.
Be like brooding.
I had a more horrible thought involving the Epcot Death Star laser. It just goes out, it's out in the ocean and a hurricane's forms.
Just Goofy trying to be like intimidating and stoic is disturbing.
I've seen Kingdom Hearts. I've kind of hijacked this in my own brain as to be more like Star Wars set in Florida now. So take that how you will.
Well, someone did that like Lord of the Rings swamp people. Like if Lord of the Rings was in like Everglades, Florida.
I want to see that TV show. Where's that HBO series? Forget the what is it, the Rings of Power or whatever. Give me that, like swamp people of Middle Earth.
I still want to see where a Klingon warbird crashes in like rural Louisiana, and while the Klingon is trying to fix his ship, it's like Cletus is like, "Hey Gorthok, you want to go watch a NASCAR race?" He's like, "Is there honor in it?" He's like, yeah, there's a lot of honor in there."
Andy, the reason they don't want to make that as a show is because the government doesn't want people to know it's true.
Oh, Klingons are real.
Swamp Klingons would be an awesome show.
Klingons myself.
I could see Klingons drinking moonshine. I just, I feel like they would enjoy that as an activity.
This liquor has much honor in it.
This liquor tastes much like turpentine.
I remember root beer. It's bubbly and it's insidious. Yes, just like the Federation.
I don't like root beer. It's bubbly and insidious and gets everywhere.
once you try it, you start to like it.
Yeah, well, same thing goes with crystal meth, but I don't think they were selling that on Deep Space Nine.
Look, I don't want to see a Klingon on crystal meth. That's just a problem I don't want to witness. They're strong
I
enough
don't
as it
think there's a
is.
lot of survivors from that instance of things happening.
What does this crystal? Yeah, Glorf just snuff it up your nose. Okay.
Just
You know what? No, it causes them to become pacifists. They start chilling out. They're like,
okay, that would be the funny way about it, where it's just like it's essentially just like a weed to them, and they just start mellowing out and doing drum circles.
you know
All
what?
right,
We thought the Federation's a pretty chill place, man.
what's Paramount up to these days? Do you think they'd be up for
They-
that as a series? Do you think we can give them a good pitch for that? I think we could.
I don't know the way Klingons look now. Klingons look more like Drow now. Oh wait, they got rid of that. They decanonized that.
I think they should just make him look like the Predator at this point. Just go full like crazy with it. It does look like we are getting up here on the end of stream, though, so probably gonna call it here shortly. As much as I wanted to finish this magnificent specimen that is Richard Smasher.
If Joe Dirt and Mad Max fused together.
That's a great way to describe Richard Smasher. That's pretty accurate. I mean, I'd watch this Road Warrior inspired movie. I think it'd be perfect for that. So, well, I guess I'll have to finish coloring it later. But I will absolutely post this on stream next time I finish it, or when I'm done with it. So. Kind of wish I had longer streams sometimes so I could do more, but at the same time, though, it is a long time to sit and draw. Without a break, I should say. I've definitely drawn more than like 2 hours a day, but...
Zork, you better not be, like, proposing a Breaking Bad show, but, like, in Star Trek.
Are you kidding? I would love that.
I see Feringans growing, like, illegal, illicit substances.
You know that they're absolutely doing that. There's definitely some Ferengi grow-up somewhere.
That'd be funny if that's, like, the one, like, financial thing they wouldn't touch. It's like, what? That's immoral. No Ferengi would go into that trade.
I had a worse thought. Ferengi, but it's Trailer Park Boys.
I don't know. I want to see hillbilly redneck Klingons.
Fucking Ferengi making moonshine with fucking Klingons. Oh, Quark definitely had some, like, still running in the back of the bar there. You know that he definitely had some good shit that he saved for special paying customers.
For special paying customers.
Oh, yeah. Look at this fucking Chad. Oh.
Does this car talk to him?
Yeah, it's like Knight Rider, but it's like a Billy Mouth Bass and it's singing to him.
Hi, Mom!
Yeah, it's a Billy. Instead of the laser bar thing they got, it's a fucking Billy Mouth Bass in the dashboard that talks to him.
It talks, it does that.
Yeah. Like, it still sounds the same and everything.
Have a redneck accent, or
no, it still sounds like Kit.
Accent, or
it still sounds like Kit from Knight Rider, but it's just a Billy Mouth Bass instead of the fucking computer.
Richard, should I deploy the oil slick, Richard? The fish is like flopping around.
Actually, wait, no, I know the perfect thing. It sounds like the reporter voice fish from SpongeBob. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. I don't know. I like Kit better because it's like
it would be
the actor and make him do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why
All right, well, I think we're at the end of stream here, so I'm gonna have to unfortunately call it here. As much as I want to finish this right now, But thank you everybody for joining us on this wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed stream and our Mandy tangents and shit posting while I draw this wonderful picture here. So thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you next time. Until then, y'all take it easy.
Take care.